Welcome back, everyone, to episode 70 of the Minot Business Podcast, presented by Bennett Creative Media. I am your host, Easton Bennett, and on the show today, we have Meg Wold. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Easton.
Before we get started, if you have not already, please rate and review the show. It only takes 5 seconds to leave us a rating and a review, and it really helps spread the word to new audiences and attract new guests each week. All right, so we're going to dive right into it, just like we do every single episode. For the people that have never met you, they have no idea what you're about. Mm-hmm. What is your whole thing? Okay,
well, I am from Williston, North Dakota. I own coffee shops. I own Meg-A-Latte coffee shops, hence my name is Meg, so it's kind of a spin on my name. But yeah, I mean, we opened our first location 12 years ago in Williston.
Okay. So 12 years ago, I want to dive right in, and I was going to say the name Meg-A-Latte. Mm-hmm. I assume it came from your name. So we've cleared the air on that. Yeah. That did come from the name. So 12 years ago, started in Williston. Are you originally from Williston?
Yeah. I'm born and raised from Williston, as well as my husband. I went to college in Fargo, North Dakota. Go Bison.
Yep, there you go.
But, graduated a handful of years ago. So. Okay.
So then 12 years ago, what was the whole idea behind coffee shop? Were you always into coffee? What is your thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I went to college in Fargo, I was going for something completely, not in the realm of the coffee industry. I went to school for fashion marketing, actually, and public relations and advertising. But while I went to college, I worked and managed a coffee shop in Fargo, Moorhead area. And I guess that's when I fell in love with just the industry and what it was all about.
What made you fall in love?
Just the interaction that you had on a daily basis with people. I mean, I love talking to people and having that interaction and creating friendships.
So when you moved back then after college, did you kind of think when you're running and managing the coffee shop in Fargo, did you think one day I want to own a coffee shop, or did you move back and then it just hit you?
No, I totally wasn't in my plans. When I managed the coffee shop, I knew I loved it, but I definitely was going to college for something else. Okay. And so wasn't in my future plans. But my husband and I decided to move back to Williston to start a family. And once I did that, I worked at Halliburton, which is an oil field company. And I was a buyer there and bought, fracking materials, so trucks and tools and all
totally different than coffee. That's way in a different realm.
Totally, yeah. But I worked there for a couple of years, and it was a great job, and I enjoyed it. But once we had our first child, I kind of felt this need to have more flexibility to be a mom, and also just kind of had an urge to have a passion to go to work, and I wasn't really having that. And so I was like, what can I do? Okay. Yeah.
So then when you're starting the name, obviously Meg-A-Latte, it's from your name, Meg. Were there any other names that you were spitballing?
There was a handful of them. I mean, it was, we had we actually had a bowl of names, and my family and I were putting in, just ideas of names, and just had someone pull out, okay, this one is going to be it. And it was Meg-A-Latte. So we just went with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to talk about that initial startup. Mm-hmm. On the show, we're really talking about, going through people's business journeys and their entrepreneurship journeys. Yeah. So what you learned in Fargo, managing that coffee shop, did that help you in starting your coffee shop? Yeah,
I mean, definitely. It really gave me, an idea of the machines I needed, exactly what I would want in my own coffee shop. It definitely it was so many years ago now, but it definitely gave me idea of what I needed in order to open a shop. Yeah. And so that was, huge. We did it in a very short amount of time. I quit my job at Halliburton in December, and we opened February 2nd. Oh, wow. So it's very quick.
That's a quick turnaround time. Yeah. Was there anyone that was helping you business wise, or did you kind of learn the business from working in Fargo?
Not necessarily. I mean, Williston has, Keith Olson, which is really, a great guy to go to for, if you want to open a business. He has
the guy with the mullet?
Yes.
We've done a project for economic development there. So we're actually just there shooting, and I'm like, I always know Keith by his hair.
Yeah. So that is Keith. And he, is helpful in just kind of guiding me with some information and some background numbers of what coffee shops around the area could, bring in and stuff like that, even though I kind of already had my numbers. Yeah. He was a help for sure. Mm-hmm.
So so you said you had your own numbers. Were you just kind of Did you know the numbers? Were you just like, I think it's going to be like this?
Yeah. I mean, I laid out my menu and I was like, okay, this is how many coffees I would have to sell an hour in order to make my rent. And, and at the time planned to have myself work open to close and like one other employee.
Yeah.
And so my initial plan had definitely changed even 3 months into it.
Okay.
Because the oil boom just brought us so much business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I suppose I didn't even think about that. The oil boom, probably a ton of people coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2012, February is when we opened. And, the boom in the Bakken had already been in the works for a while, but it was still just a lot of people in town coming in from all over. And so at the time, Williston only had one other sit-down coffee shop. So, we were number 2 to sit down and have a place to a lot of people didn't even have a house. They were staying in all different types of places. Oh, yeah. So we were, a really good place to hang out. Did
it start with just coffee or did you have food too?
For the most part, it was just coffee and bakery items. Okay. And then after our 3rd location, our menu really expanded.
Okay. So we're going to get into the locations a little bit down the road because I want to talk about you opening multiple locations, but I want to know what were your emotions like that, when you first started the first shop? Yeah. Were you like, oh, I'm super nervous? Did you have imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Being from Williston, I wasn't probably as nervous as maybe in a new community that I'm not really aware of who my clientele or my customers would be, but I was definitely nervous. But it was exciting. And so, I guess all the feelings, when we first opened, like I said, planned to work open to close, and I did for the first couple of years, but I had to hire a lot of employees to help me run it. So,
cause that's what I was going to ask. When you first started, you planned to work open to close. Yep. Was it as busy as you thought it was going to be in the beginning? Because that's one thing when you talk to business owners, some of them are super gung-ho, like, oh, the business is going to make this. And then they run into some issues where it's like, okay, it's going to take a little bit of time. What was your experience?
I mean, now it's been 12 years, so it's hard for me to kind of remember, but it was definitely like a fast pace, like from the get-go. Yeah. And that's why it was kind of like whoa, I need to hire, people and train people and stuff like that. So it was a big start, I would say fast paced.
How did you learn the training side of things? Because you started training and hiring people. Did you know any of that from your previous experience?
Yeah. I mean, running and managing the shop in college, I trained people at that point. And so, I had an idea of what training looked like and how I wanted things. So I would say my training process 12 years ago has changed dramatically to what it is today. But
if you had to give some advice, because one thing we like to do on the show is give people actionable advice that are maybe just starting their business or they're in the beginning stages, what would be your advice for hiring and training? Is there anything that you wish you knew when you started?
I would say be picky and take your time with training. We found that at times we've tried to train really fast and get like that new barista on the floor out on the floor as quickly as we can. And it never is a good thing because, you want to take time with each person and really give them the time they need to be the best that they can be for your company. Okay. So it's so vital.
Yeah. Well, in the coffee shop is a whole different world. It's like I go into a coffee shop. Once I find something I like somewhere, I get the same thing every single time I go there. But some people are like, I need a grande this or a small this, large, whipped, iced. Yeah. It's a whole thing. I assume the training is extensive.
Yeah. I mean, we have so many flavors. It's kind of crazy and ridiculous at the same time. But we have so many options. That's where I think we do set ourselves apart from other competitors is we just have, 80 syrups, to choose from. We have several powders. We have so many different concoctions that we make signature drinks, flavors wise. So the training is intense and is a lot for a new hire for sure.
When you first started, were you the one crafting these recipes and these drinks?
Yeah. At the beginning, it was definitely me just coming up with, I'd make up these names, one of our from really a long time ago is called Slice of Paradise. And that's one of mine that, I created years ago. But since then, I would say for the last 8 years, I really let my staff come up with, these cool creations and then we name them and we use them.
Do they feel like they are almost a part of it when they get to throw their hat in the ring for the name?
Yeah, for sure. I'll have an employee come in and they'll be like, "Hey, Meg, I have this idea of this, and this," and I'm like, "Make it for me. I'll try it, and then we'll see."
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
kind of. It's cool that the employees feel like they get a hand in it, and they're like, "Oh, if I make something that she likes it's getting slapped up on the menu."
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the growth period. Then you started in Williston. Where did you go next? What was the next shop?
Yeah. So our first location was down by Taco John's in Williston. Then 2.5 years after that, we went into New Hope Church. It is completely separate business from the church. We were asked to, be their coffee shop when they did their renovation. And so I was a little nervous at first for that location because I'm like, I've never heard of a coffee shop in a church at the time. That was like a new thing, but now it's more common.
Yeah.
But I went for it, and that was another really busy shop at the time because of the amount of people that were in the Bakken at the time. So now that is our slowest shop. It's doesn't have a drive-through, so people like convenience.
Yep.
So it's definitely one of our slower shops.
Okay. And then the next one after that?
And then after that, we opened up our third location, and that was with a drive-through. So that was our first location with a drive-through. Our original location didn't have a drive-through either. And so that is when our menu really blew up because we had people coming through like, "Hey, do you have any grab and go, like food, like items, And so that's when we really expanded our menu to, a wide variety of all things.
Yeah.
So.
And what was that like? Were you like, man, I got to start to find products for grab and go now?
Yeah. I mean, I have an awesome food rep that has, helped me from the beginning. He's been with me for 12 years, actually lives here in Minot, but he was great and really helped us build that menu of food. And so, let's see, where was I going with that? Well, once we expanded our menu, our original location was like too small to be able to provide our food. So that's when we were starting to look for a bigger location. And with a drive-through was kind of what we were hoping to transition the original location to. And then in 2020, we found the old Pizza Hut in Williston. And it was actually roughly 2 blocks away from our original location. And
Stone's throw, just right there.
Yeah, we're just like, you know what? Maybe we could purchase that and then close that location and have a bigger, substantial place for a drive-through and everything. So we did that.
And then the fourth iteration, we moved to Minot.
No. The fourth was in Watford City.
Okay, Watford City. So is there 5 total?
Yes.
Okay, 5 total. Yeah. So Watford City.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So then we went to Watford City and opened there in 2021. And that's been a great location for us. Watford City is just such a cute, cool town.
Yeah.
Definitely a smaller town, but it's been awesome for us, and the community welcomed us with open arms, and it's been great. So
a different city then. What was your experience like moving away from Williston? The first 3 were in Williston, and then you go to a different city.
Yeah. That was definitely a little scary, but I had such a great manager to go there. I will say that that's the only way so far that I've been able to feel like confident in expanding is having that awesome staff that I've had to be able to do so. So my manager that moved to Watford from Williston, she had worked for me for a couple of years already. Okay. And she moved to Watford City. So, and then the same with Minot. The executive shop manager that runs the shop here, worked for me in Williston and has now moved to Minot.
So is that kind of how it goes? You get a manager and they're like, "Hey, I'm moving." You're like, "Perfect. We'll move a coffee shop with you."
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, really, it's just those leaders that stand out to me, that have that passion for coffee. I bring it to them and I'm like, "Hey, if you want to run your own shop one day, like, let's talk." Yeah. I definitely, that's something that I'm kind of, that's what I want to do. And the goal is like, if someone wants to run their own shop, but, doesn't know how to do so, let's open a Meg-A-Latte and let's do it together.
So why Minot? Obviously you had a manager coming here, but were there anything else that were sticking out?
Yeah. We've been a part of the North Dakota State Fair Meg-A-Latte for the last 7 years. So we've had a coffee trailer there by the Bunny Barn, like the same spot every year. Yeah. And we love that area because we're not in the kind of chaos of all the rides and stuff. And so it's kind of like a cute little spot under a tree. It's like so quaint and we love it. And so, I guess just doing that for the last several years in Minot, I think, created a lot of relationships with people that live here. And so those, some of those customers have said, when are you going to open a shop in Minot? And every summer I'm like, I want to, but I don't, I haven't found a spot yet. And so, it's been a thing for a couple of years, and we haven't really found a spot that we thought would be great until this past summer. So.
Yeah. Cause that's kind of what I was wondering, if it was a thought process that kind of been mulling around, stirring around for a couple of years, or if one day you're just like, Minot it is, let's go.
No, definitely was mulled around for a good amount of time.
Okay, cool. So I got a few more questions about Minot, but before, I'm going to talk about this week's sponsor, Midco. Whether you're looking for a good deal, more reliable internet, or a more forward-thinking tech partner for your business, Midco has you covered. They're making it easier than ever to make the switch to Midco. Sign up for services before December 31st, and you'll receive free professional installation. That's a $499 value. You can schedule installation at the time that's most convenient for you and your business. Plus, Midco's team of experts will not only set up your services, but set your team up for success by showing the ins and outs of your new connection. From gig speeds to VoIP phone services, I mess that one up every time, get everything you need to help your business thrive. Visit midco.com/business/free install. This limited time offer is for new customers only. Okay, Meg, so let's talk a little bit more about Minot. I want to talk about, going into a new city, and you probably experienced this with Watford too. How do you go into a new city and then start to build that customer base?
Yeah, I think we're in the process of just doing that right now in Minot. Just not being from here, really trying to make those connections with other business owners and stuff like that, having those conversations with those business owners of, how can we serve you, and how can we, collaborate together, and then also making connections with organizations in town that we can help donate to, and do our, what we can, I guess, in the community.
Because I think the biggest thing is you have to, and I don't know if it's just coffee shops, but once you get that loyalty, once people like it, they rarely defer to other places. Yeah. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. That is the name of the game. And, I tell all of our employees, you can spend a lot of money on a cup of coffee, and if it tastes amazing, but your service is terrible, people aren't going to do it, just because, the service they're getting or the connection they're having isn't invigorating to them. Yeah. And so, that is definitely it, is, you have to have the customer service. Otherwise people aren't coming back.
It goes hand in hand, because if you have great customer service and a horrible drink, they're also not coming back.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's kind of my biggest gripe. I don't go to Starbucks rarely ever, but every time I do, the line is just all the way wrapped around into Broadway. And I'm like, why would I ever go there and wait 43 minutes? I'm like, some people are waiting that long. Yeah. But yeah, if you get the good drink and you get the good customer service, that's when you have a winning formula. Yeah. Marketing wise, what are some marketing tactics you've used or things that have worked?
Well, in Williston, it's just word of mouth. Being from there, I think, was really helpful for me. My husband's family's there. My parents live there. My siblings live there. And so we just have, a lot of people in the first place to be able to get the word out. Yeah. And so that was very helpful then. Also just the amount of people that were there at the time didn't have options. So we were their option. In Watford, I guess our marketing tactic there was really just going to businesses and telling them, hey, we're here and we can serve you. We do a coffee club, weekly, we can get you set up with, and we do catering. And so just reaching out and letting them know about our services and what we can do for them.
That was the other thing I was going to ask about, is partnerships. Mm-hmm. How does it work? I've seen coffee shops here in Minot partner with different brands. Mm-hmm. What is that partnership relationship like?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. I think that's what's really cool about owning your own business, is being able to do that and have those connections and collaborate with any way you can. It's really different depending on the business that you're partnering with. Yeah. But in the past, I've partnered with so many different places, but the schools, for example, we provide, donate a portion of their huge coffee order for their teachers during Christmas or, Thanksgiving and holidays. Yeah. And we donate 50% of the cost so that they can treat their teachers and staff. Let's see. There's so many different ways that we can go about it. We also, partner with the Salvation Army in Williston, and we always have, at the holiday time, we have their, toy big
Yep. Their toy
things
drive
that
thing.
their toy drive. They can, people in the community can drop off their toys for the kids. And so we're kind of one of the hubs in Williston that people can come do that. Lots of options.
Why do you think it's important to do that in these communities? Because I know one of your big things is you want to be, anywhere you open a coffee shop, you want to be involved in that community, not just a business that's not hands-on.
Yeah. Well, because that, I guess for me, is my mission, is to be, for me, it's about going into communities, giving that community the experience that we give at Meg-A-Latte, but also being a place, kind of like a safe haven for people in the community to come enjoy themselves, in a comfortable place. Yeah. And so it's vital to be involved in the community because you want your community to be in your business. So it just goes hand in hand and you have to do it.
Yeah. And I like how you said the comfortableness. I want to talk about the interior design of your spaces now. I've never been to Meg-A-Latte here. I'm actually was planning on going to it this afternoon and checking it out. But I've seen some photos and it looks pretty cool in there. Is that all you doing, or do you got a designer? Yeah.
So I didn't mention that in my bio, I guess, but I initially went to college for interior design, and did that for my first year and a half of college and changed my major because I couldn't put it on paper. I'm just a visual doer. So I couldn't put it on paper. So at the time I just switched my major, but I love interior design. I love creating spaces that are, really, really neat. So
do you think that helps with the whole coffee atmosphere, the coffee world? Because I think when I go to a coffee shop, I'm like, I want to be in a cool space.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what I would want. So that's kind of what I go with. I'm like, well, where would I want to hang out for hours on end? It would have to be a nice looking place, a cool place to hang, Yeah. So yeah, that's just what I enjoy doing.
So pivoting a little bit then into the business owner lifestyle. Yeah. I know a lot of people on here either want to start a business or they're just starting. What is it actually like for the people that don't know?
I mean, it's your entire life.
Yep.
But, I'm married and have 4 kids and I can do it and you can too. And so I think it's just, if you have passion for it and you love it, it's like they say, that cliche saying, it's not, you're not working, a day in your life if you love what you do. So I do agree with that. I mean, I definitely work all the time. But I also have the ability to do what I want to do with my kids and take time off when needed, because I am a business owner. So it definitely is you don't really have days off necessarily.
It's always in the back of your
It's
mind.
always there. Yeah. But, I think it's a really rewarding thing to be, a business owner. So definitely comes with a lot, but
it's like a Wednesday at 9:00 at night and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this, or, I have to do this. It is a constant stress, but it is very rewarding. Yeah. Talking future growth then. Yeah. 5 locations. What's on the horizon? What do you want to accomplish?
I mean, obviously now I have a lot of goals and dreams. And like I said, I really think that, whenever I travel, I'm like, oh gosh, I really think we need a shop here because I just miss my coffee and I can't find it in other areas necessarily. So, if things come up and we think that it would be a good spot for us, we would love to expand into other communities. But it has to feel right. And it has to be good timing. So
is it only North Dakota? Or are you willing to go to Montana and South Dakota?
I mean, I love Montana. I love Idaho. I would be willing to go other places as well, but just has to be right.
We'll see where it takes you. We'll see. We'll have this conversation again in 3 to 5 years and see how many stores we're at now. Yeah. I want to do a quick little rapid round on some business advice here, and then we can wrap up the show. But for someone that's, obviously me, I have a video production business where I don't really need a brick and mortar, service-based business. What would be some advice for the brick and mortar? You actually have a physical location where people can come in there. What are some things you learned along the way?
Oh gosh. I guess I probably already said it, is just creating connections with the people in the community, because if you have a brick and mortar, company or business, you need people to come in there. Yeah. And so I think the only way of doing that is really creating connections with people and relationships. Yeah. You can post it all you want, but if you don't have, a face to actually talk to and have that relationship started, then it's really hard to have that ongoing loyalty from people. Yeah.
So work-life balance then. We talked about that, but how do you balance that?
I try my best.
Yeah.
I think that, it is kind of hard for me. There are times where my husband's like, put your phone down,
Yep.
But yeah, I just have to really focus on it. When my kids get home from school, it's, I'm theirs, and I try to focus only on my family the best I can. And so, it's just having boundaries as well with your staff, or vendors or whatever, is just having those boundaries clear so that they know that, you are a mom of four and you need your mom time as well. So.
And it's hard to get to that point. I know when I started my business, I wanted to work 24/7, and I would never draw that line of, okay, this is work time. This is personal time. But once you figure out that, okay, if you can differentiate the two, it's going to be much easier.
Yeah. And it's definitely important to have that break, because you can work that much more efficiently when you have a break from work. So, I mean, it is hard to learn, but it's definitely essential in a long-term success.
You don't want to burn out, because then your business just starts to tank.
Yeah.
2 more questions here for you. First one is a layup. What is your favorite drink that you have at Meg-A-Latte?
Okay. Well, every morning I have a white chocolate hazelnut latte. I mean, it's literally what I have every day. But then my second and third drink, I switch it up. So I, change those drinks. But I also drink non-dairy. So I do white chocolate hazelnut with coconut milk.
Okay. See, I'm going to have to get that, because white chocolate hazelnut latte, is that what you said it was?
Or mocha.
So I'm not a guy that'll go to a coffee shop every day, but when I do, I'm like, oh, let's go to a coffee shop. Yeah. So I just have a Keurig, and the only creamer I use is hazelnut. So that might be right up my alley.
You would love it, I bet. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So that's what I'm going to try. That was my first layup question for you.
Yeah.
Last question I got for you. What is your Mount Rushmore of business advice? You got to give 4 pieces of advice for the people listening. They don't have to be super extensive, but what would be the 4 things you'd tell people?
Oh my goodness, Easton. Okay.
I know.
Well,
see the layup, and then it comes with the harder one.
Okay. 4 things. You got to be passionate.
Yep.
You got to have boundaries. Let's see.
This is always the one that stumps people. That's why it's my favorite.
You got to have support from like your people. Yep. Like you can't do it alone. 100%. I didn't talk about that in this podcast at all, but I mean, I couldn't have, gotten to 5 locations without the people that support me, my parents, my siblings, my husband, my family. But then my staff are the people that have created the loyalty of the business. So, the people. Okay. I have one more.
Yep. I do like that one though, because one thing I don't think a lot of people realize is that the ups and downs, they can get to you from time to time, where when you are in those dips and those lulls, it's the people you lean on, your parents, your family, your significant other, your kids, your staff. Those are the people that's going to make sure that you get through that hard time.
100%. Yeah.
So I stalled long enough. You got one more.
Let's see.
Trying to think of what else you said on the podcast that you can just.
Yeah. Support. I don't know, Easton. I'm stuck. I'm trying to think real hard. I mean, I think of community, but like if you are going to open a business, I don't know community is important depending on your business and what you're doing. So I don't know. I
like it though. It's your piece of advice. We can do community because, having a coffee shop in the community, important to be a part of the community. Yeah. I'll count it for 4. All right. Thank you very much. Where can people find you? Yeah,
we are on North Hill across from the airport. So, we're connected to Qdoba right there on the left side. We have a drive-through.
Yep.
And we are open at 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. right now. We were initially till 9, but we upped it a little bit by 1 hour. Yeah. And then Saturday and Sunday, 6 to 7.
What kind of people are getting coffee at 9 p.m.?
I mean, I don't know, but
old people. I think my grandma's like, I get a cup of coffee at 8:30.
Yeah. People come in and they'll get tea and stuff at that time, and kind of, the college is there. So we'll get some people, doing some studies.
I suppose it doesn't have to be specifically coffee.
Yeah. And we have a lot of food.
Perfect. So stop in Meg-A-Latte right next to the airport, old Tim Hortons location, I believe. So if you guys are familiar with where Tim Hortons used to be, right there in that space. Meg, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That was episode 70 of the Minot Business Podcast. Have a fantastic New Year's, you guys. This is the last episode of 2023. We will see you guys next week for episode 71, first episode of 2024.